Well, maybe you sensed it, that feeling that you're being watched. Well, the state has laws against stalking on the books, making it a felony.
What if police don't recognize it? And what if it's a complete stranger who's bothering you? Tonight, Joe Conger and the I-Team investigates.
Cynthia Verbeff is moving. Her home, she says, has become a house of horrors.
I feel that I've lost my mind, I've lost my life.
Incident reports from law enforcement tell the tale. Numerous break-ins at the address, vandalism to her car, her motorcycle, her computer. Verbeff believes she's being targeted.
Everything, they just went through everything.
But sheriff's detectives had little to go on because the vandals, though often destructive, stole nothing. Even from her portable safe, drilled into and torn apart, the contents, the jewelry, remained untouched. Verbeff says her troubles didn't start until she met these two men. One would become her ex-boyfriend, the other was his partner in a San Antonio pain clinic, Dr. John Hall.
Very first time I met him, we went to his house on 4th of July, and he told me that because I was already there in his house, I would be the next victim, that I was going to be stalked.
Verbeff found the doctor's prophecy to be correct. She suffered months of oddness.
Coming in through the front door, and I touch the doorknob, and it just falls into pieces.
Lights left on, doors open, furniture moved, her clothes dryer disassembled. Her friends say they noticed the strange happenings. They tell the I-Team they even witnessed a gas oven left turned on.
As soon as you walk in the house, you'd smell gas in the house. So the whole house smelled from gas. So immediately turned it off and opened up the doors. But I mean, that thing doesn't just turn on by itself. And it had been running for a good length of time.
Or the time Verbeff and a friend say they were stalked at a mall.
I saw him following us to several stores, and I would see the man close to us, looking at us.
The girls had the presence of mind to snap a photo with their phone. Verbeff says all these happenings culminated in an assault. The 39-year-old believes someone drugged the food in her home and returned later to rape her.
I know something happened to me because a woman knows.
She filed a report and was briefly hospitalized with signs of sexual assault. Dr. Hall says what Verbeff describes is known as gang stalking. Indeed, he writes about it in his book, A New Breed, Satellite Terrorism in America. Verbeff is not alone. Others in San Antonio have contacted the I-Team and described similar types of occurrences.
The urine arsenic is above normal. We shouldn't have arsenic.
Linda Johnson says someone poisoned her water supply with heavy metals in northwest San Antonio. Then there's her story about the bracelet that went missing, then reappeared. Police, she says, have stopped listening to her. And like Verbeff, she too believes she's been sexually assaulted, although she never filed a police report.
I've gone to doctors many times, and I've been to the Rape Crisis Center for counseling, yes.
Many of these so-called victims of what Hall describes as gang stalking meet up on the internet, finding comfort and information from others who say they too suffer from electronic stalking, mind control, and even rape. Loosely defined, gang stalking is where organized groups target and harass unwilling victims to the point of paranoia, leaving the victims to deal with skeptical family members and skeptical law enforcement.
This isn't stalking done by a former spouse or former boyfriend or someone that you know that's disgruntled at you, but stalking that's being done by total strangers in an organized fashion.
And some internet links take you here to the book mentioned earlier, written by Dr. John Hall.
The book is fact. It's not a book of fiction. What I've wrote about is an isolated story here in San Antonio.
Dr. Hall says it is a story about himself and the harassment and rapes his ex-girlfriends allegedly suffered beginning in 1996. Dr. Hall believes the people behind it are well-organized operatives using government satellite technology to terrorize him and other victims.
All voicing the same complaints: organized stalking, weird electronic disturbances going on in their homes. Most of the women are complaining of drugging and sexual assault. So it's a big national problem.
Verbeff bought the book, and what she read, she says, caused her stomach to turn, because within the chapters in the story, she found similarities to her own situation.
I pulled out the book and I started reading, and I'm like, oh my God, it's exactly what's happening.
It's like turning the pages of your own story.
Everything.
Remember the doors, windows, even the clothes dryer taken apart? Page 35, third paragraph, talks about reassembling appliances. The drugged food and rape? Page 52 talks of concealing Rohypnol, the date rape drug, in drinks and food. The account in Hall's book is chilling, and the I-Team uncovered some truth to his story. San Antonio police reports indicate there was a rape reported in 2007 in the same quad of condos where one of Dr. Hall's girlfriends supposedly lived. San Antonio police say the condo rape remains under investigation. And Bexar County detectives say Verbeff's assault remains open as well. And although there are some interesting connections to Dr. Hall in the book, law enforcement won't and cannot say if Dr. Hall is even a person of interest. The I-Team thought the similarities were striking and asked him.
Could you, in fact, be the person that's creating this mess for these women?
And that's actually one of the reasons why I got out of my ex-fiance's life, to make sure that they weren't victimizing her in order to get at me.
Dr. Hall says he's been targeted by the same groups. There's mention in the book of a conspiracy by the criminals and by fellow doctors. Dr. Hall says the Texas Medical Board retaliated against him for uncovering the gang stalking. The I-Team confirmed one local hospital suspended Dr. Hall's clinical privileges for 2 months in 2006. In 2007, the Texas Medical Board ordered 2 mental evaluations of Dr. Hall. The first came back normal, but a second evaluation found a probable delusional disorder and ordered psychiatric treatment. And in 2008, Hall's license was suspended, this time when he tested positive for cocaine. In the book, he explains the operatives drugged him with cocaine periodically. Dr. Hall's medical license has since been reinstated.
If you look nationwide, almost everyone that complains of this eventually gets sent to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrists don't look into the technology. They don't do any research into whether or not any of this is possible.
With his book published, Dr. Hall is taking his message nationally. He's appeared on cable TV shows.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hall.
Late night radio.
And our guest tonight, Dr. John Hall.
And even has his own radio program in the works.
There have been several people in my midst, obviously, that have been victimized, but if you look at it on a larger scale, it is a national problem as well.
Dr. Hall says the problem is gang stalking, seeking to victimize innocent women and sully his reputation for exposing them. For the I-Team, Joe Conger, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.
Dr. Hall's belief is that we all face some sort of terrorism in our lives that is mostly unseen and deadly. He contends criminals are tapping into our government surveillance systems to gain access to our lives and minds. As for the alleged rapes mentioned in that story, no one has been charged, but both San Antonio Police and Bexar County Sheriff's deputies say they continue to investigate.
Here on 5 News, we've told you about different kinds of bullying that goes down in schools.
That's right, but bullying doesn't just affect children. Can affect us adults as well. Aaron McPherson talked to a group of people today who shared their story. Aaron, what did these people tell you?
I met 3 people today who are victims of adult bullying, or as they refer to it, organized stalking. 2 of them are from Pennsylvania, but were in the area for their support group, which helps them get through their daily struggles of people constantly putting them down.
We feel as though there is a great abuse going on, not only in our country, but across the world. This is a global problem.
John and Terry are friends from Pennsylvania who have been living in fear for years.
I was inundated with harassment, just absolutely inundated with it. I would be told what I did that day, what I did the day before, where I went, what I had to eat, what I was wearing currently, where I was sitting in my apartment.
Some of us that are single people that live alone are harassed in the community, the hacking of our electronic devices, computers, phones.
These are just 2 of the many people in the world who are victims of stalkers and bullying.
It's totally immature. It's like 10-year-old on the school play yard bullying, but yet it's like on steroids with adults, and it goes so much further than that.
People who suffer from this lose money from changing locks, fixing computers, or even moving.
Just a slow takedown of a person's life over time. I had a respectable career, and I was married, and I had a home, I had cars, typical thing, set up, and now I don't have a whole lot left in the world.
Terry and John told us they have gone to the police with this information, but apparently they lack the evidence needed for a case.
I actually took the computer, I threw it in the dumpster, which was a terrible thing to do because the hard drive and everything was in there, and I had tons and tons and tons of things on there that probably would have been helpful.
We are trying to gather evidence that we can, that things are going on.
So why do people do this, and what can be done?
It seems to me that they enjoy being a part of this. We need laws to be passed. We need laws to be upheld. We need ethics to come back into our lives.
Luckily, Terry and John have found support groups that help them get through day-to-day life.
Important to have that connection with other people going through this.
Can't describe what it would be like, what it has been like to talk to somebody who understands this And then to find out there's people all around the country that are going through this, and I've made so many friends now because of this, and it's been the difference between being able to keep going and not.
Terry and John said hopefully by coming forward, people will be more aware of this problem. For 5 News, I'm Erin McPherson.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods.
Well, several viewers asked us to investigate what they call electronic harassment. KMIR 6's Angela Monroe joins us now with what she's discovered. Angela.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several Valley residents who say they're victims.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain?
It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
These men all live in the area, didn't know each other before the voices started, and say someone is playing mind games with them.
Mostly it's a lot of derogatory comments about whatever you're thinking about.
Only time I ever had a whole sentence, he said, "This is not about you," which just frosted me. If it's not about me, what the hell am I going through all this for?
Kevin Bond says he used to have a normal life.
I was living in the San Diego area, I was clerking for a federal judge, and I noticed that I was being followed by a whole bunch of people.
According to the websites, what Bond is describing is called gang stalking. He moved to Palm Springs to escape.
I started hearing, as you'll hear, hearing voices and what they'll call voice to skull or microwave hearing.
Bob Stansfield says his experience was similar and started a decade ago.
They were active in following me around here, and I started hearing the voices a little bit after the vehicular stalking.
Randall Ringer says the voices started when he was undergoing chemotherapy.
The first thing that was said was Randall Ringer. And I sat up straight and I went to into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, looked myself in the eyes, and I said, did that really happen?
Bond says he's found more than 300 victims locally and is tracking others across the state through billboards. In Johnson Valley, a Freedom House just opened to help people who believe they are being targeted.
To many of you who find yourselves the object of covert harassment, that there is hope and that you are not alone, and that we are striving to find legislation and we're working towards freedom for all.
Derek Robinson leads a national group called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
And he also told us how.
Most of it is delivered by microwave, and I believe it's satellite delivered, whether someone is on a remote location using a laptop or next door using the desktop.
Bond says neurotransmitter chips that run off body electricity have been inserted into some people.
And they assign cell phone numbers to them. The cell phone numbers are then run through a computer, and a computer translates your thoughts. This crime has been available to the military for 60 years.
We sat down with local psychiatrist Dr. Alan Drucker to get his professional opinion.
There's no scientific evidence and there's no objective evidence to show that what they believe to be happening is factually true.
So what does the doctor believe is behind these voices?
Information that I found on many of these websites really confirms or is consistent with what I see in delusional disorders.
But these men disagree.
I've been to a psychiatrist and they gave me anti-schizophrenia medication and it did absolutely nothing whatsoever.
However, Dr. Drucker says delusional disorder has no real medical treatment and is believed to start because of disrupted dopamine pathways in the brain.
These pathways then start to fire or get triggered in the absence of actual stimulation of a person actually speaking or the radio being on, etc.
Dr. Drucker says dopamine can be disrupted for a variety of reasons: a genetic predisposition, illicit drugs, and even chemotherapy. These men have their own theories why they're being harassed.
I think that I was targeted because I'm gay.
I reported someone for selling what I thought they were selling drugs, and they were.
Nationwide, this crime is committed about 60% against white women ages from 30 to 38. But in Palm Springs, it's almost 98% gay men.
It does tend to occur more in populations of individuals who are marginalized or in some way stigmatized in society.
But these men disagree and say police and the psychiatric community need to take them seriously.
When I worked for the government, I heard a lot of people coming in saying, I'm hearing voices through my tooth. Now I look back and I think, are they like I am now and I just didn't pay attention?
For them, the voices are a waking nightmare. And Kevin Bond told me they're working on a book project about electronic harassment and pitching the idea to DreamWorks. Back to you.
A 58-year-old woman who has filed several lawsuits against local, state, and federal officials wants to be Louisville's next mayor.
She claims there's a widespread conspiracy to keep her quiet. So who is Connie Marshall? Steve Bergen attended her news conference today. Joins us live now with more. Steve.
Vicki Carissa. Democrat Connie Marshall says she is a businesswoman with a background in real estate and a civil rights activist. She's presently unemployed. Marshall believes there's a campaign on behalf of some corrupt officials to sabotage her campaign.
I have no ties to the special interests. I'm spiritually based, and I believe in honesty, integrity, and accountability.
And Connie Marshall says she's been fighting for accountability for some time. She's filed several lawsuits charging a widespread government cover-up. And that's one of the reasons she contends she's been assaulted 150 times.
I have been assaulted on a regular basis through electromagnetic technology. That includes microwaving, infrasound, VA satellite.
One lawsuit was filed against Louisville Gas and Electric, charging the utility with torturing and tormenting Miss Marshall by turning lights and other electrical appliances off and on.
I've had about maybe 4 or 5 TVs destroyed. I've had about 7 telephones or more, computers, fax machines, all of these things destroyed.
She claimed an electric current coming through a telephone caused her to have a paralyzed feeling. The LG&E suit was dismissed with prejudice as frivolous. Marshall also sued the U.S. Attorney, Governor Beshear, the sheriff, and police chief, claiming government waste and fraud, racism, physical and mental assault, and illegal incarceration. Earlier this month, she sued federal judges. That suit accuses them of participating in or willfully allowing gang stalking. She wants the judges impeached, incarcerated, and is seeking $20 million in damages. Marshall says the government is also conspiring to break up families.
My grandchildren were taken illegally by the state for federal funding, and they were also abused in state's care, beaten, made to go without food, and illegally placed for adoption.
She contends that and the fact she was the victim of a hate crime are other motives behind the electronic attacks and illegal surveillance.
I find my fight is with the entire Commonwealth of Kentucky, and I feel that it was done because of the complaints that I have filed against them, which are legitimate complaints.
Marshall also claims other local civil rights activists have been the targets of electronic assaults, including the late Reverend Lewis Coleman. Marshall told me she's unemployed because every job she's ever had has been destroyed. She filed her candidacy papers on Wednesday, but points out she notified the state of her intentions to run last August. 2 weeks ago, Marshall filed a lawsuit against WLKY and WHAS, alleging the stations have tried to sabotage her bid for mayor. Steve Bergen, WLKY News.
This story on our website, kcba.com. New tonight, police call it bullying on steroids. We're talking about gang stalking, but it actually has nothing to do with the gangs that you first think of. Central Coast News reporter Candace Wynn learned more about the trend and how it's getting more dangerous because of the internet.
It makes me feel afraid.
Lawrence Gazzino claims his neighbors are gang stalking him because he plays loud music late at night and is outspoken. He said for the last year and a half, he's been systematically followed by a group of people. At one point, he said they climbed on his roof to harass him. Gazzino said he's developed a paranoia that's devastated his relationships with friends and, worst of all, family.
That's the worst part of it. If it was me, I would take action.
Santa Cruz Police Lieutenant Larry Richards said police are becoming more aware of gang stalking because of cyberbullying. But what is gang stalking?
Basically, the victims could be driving their car or talking on their phones or walking the streets when a group of people try to systematically terrorize them.
Richard said gang stalking is nothing new, but new technology is making it more common.
Gang stalking itself, they have elevated themselves to technology. So this is something that's been going on before the age of Facebook, Twitter, those other social websites. They just now have gone into those areas.
Gazzino said he's proof that the problem isn't just online and that it can hit too close to home, a home he plans on leaving because of gang stalking.
I want to be able to go to the tennis courts and play tennis or play ping pong without people following us everywhere. It's just nerve-wracking.
I'm Candace Wen in Salinas, your Central Coast News.
If found guilty of gang stalking, a person may face criminal, conspiracy, and stalking charges, all of which are felony charges in California.
Try and protect themselves from some unusual hate crimes. As News 10's George Warren shows us, that's put them at odds with their neighbors and city building inspectors.
We've tracked since 9/11 hate crimes of a covert and overt nature.
The covert crimes, the family says, include intense microwave radiation aimed at the house. That explains the metal panels.
I would say that since we've put that, we've noticed the temperature difference in our house go down, noticed our health improve.
The D'Souza family includes 2 college-educated young women who say scientific instruments prove they are under attack.
The trajectories we've tracked, it's been coming from the neighbors. First, you're skeptical, but we've tracked our health, the temperature in the home. We've had blanks that are supposed to reflect microradiation and radar. They're radar reflective material, and they've burned as a shield to protect against radiation, because microwave radiation is reflected off of aluminum, so it's a protective measure.
Today, the D'Souza family tried to explain to us why they did it with binders of data and electronic measuring devices, which they prove their neighbors are bombarding them with microwaves and other kinds of radiation.
If people can imagine one night that they couldn't sleep well and they woke up totally just exhausted, that's what we were experiencing every day.
What's happening is when they're burning through it.
The family says it will comply, but will continue living under thermal blankets inside the house.
The best we could do is to protect ourselves.
The news, meantime, will continue to try to convince the D'Souzas that no one here means them any harm.
It's been coming from the neighbor.
Treated like this, like I'm a non-citizen. It hurts.